Hello, learners. Welcome to this webinar and welcome to my channel. I know it's been a while since our last webinar together, and I'm so excited to be the one to discuss to you this topic on managing stress in the workplace. So let's get started. So I hope that this topic is something that you can apply in your workplace, because in this time and era it is like um, you know everywhere there is stress. And as a professor and a student myself, I have experienced stress in the workplace and also stress in the school through distance education. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started with the webinar. Okay, it is not the load that breaks you down, it is the way you carry it. This is a quote from Lou Holtz, and I do agree with it because of the fact that there are so many ways where we can handle stress, and despite of the heavy loads that are on our backs right now, it is still possible to cope with these stressful situations. And I myself have experienced this overwhelming sense of burden this past few months, and with juggling workload and doctorate, and also my ministry. So it's very difficult to really have that homeostasis that we once had, especially those who are educators here and those who are students here, the learners. So we have experienced this, and for some it was easier to cope than for others, and for some the burden is a little bit more heavier than for others, especially for those who have experienced losses during this time of the pandemic. So um, it is really important for us to discuss on how we are able to carry this load, and also how to be able to cope with the stresses that is actually inevitable right now. Stress relates to individuals' perceptions of demands being made on them and their ability to meet those demands. So as you can see, your stress can come from a real stressor, or it can also be a perceived stress. So even the perception of something looming, something like a deadline. So even the perception of inability to do something that is hard gives you stress, right? And as you, especially now, I believe that stress is inevitable. Like, it's super, unavoidable right now, no? Yung stress that, and we cannot, and everywhere we go, there are a lot of stressors. Like, you cannot go to the public just like you once did, you cannot go to classrooms and see your classmates. So, these are very real stress, no? Hindi lang siya perceived. It's actually stress that is being placed upon our shoulders, and it's like, it's super duper difficult right now to cope with stress. And the demands, right? So there are like demands at home, there are demands in school, there are demands in your workplace if you're working. So all of these things are, right there at the center of our minds, our psyche, and many people are not able to deal with it. No, many people are not able to cope as easily as some. Okay, so in this webinar, we will try to give some pointers. How do we cope with this stress? And um, aside from coping with workplace stress, what are the causes of this stress, and how can we like do something about these causes so that let's be cause specific. So what causes your stress in the workplace? Okay. So according to statistics, 60% or 6 out of 10 experience moderate to severe occupational stress. And that is a lot. And this study was done before the pandemic. So I can only imagine right now how many of you experience moderate to severe occupational stress. I, for one, have experienced overwhelming stress this past month. That it the the depth or the burden of the psychological stress was turned into or was converted into physical symptoms. So I had the flu, I had fever, I really had the COVID scare this last month because of the overwhelming stress that was placed upon me because of adjusting to studying and at the same time working. So this is a lot. And I believe that I'm one of this six, out of 10 who have experienced this. And that's one of the motivations that I have why I actually did this video. It's or this webinar. It's not because that I was able to, totally reach this homeostatic uh, uh, environment, or the balance between work, home, and study. So I have not yet, done that. However, I'm getting there, and that's the reason why I feel very invested in the topic. So I hope that you get to learn with me, on this topic. Okay. So, aside from stress being inevitable, there's hope because stress is also manageable. Yes, it's inevitable, but it is also manageable. So, we can do something about it so that it will not overwhelm us to the point of to the end of the line. So we can manage our stress or look at coping mechanisms that people did or are doing and learn from them, and maybe just maybe we'll be able to cope with the stress that we have right now in our workplace. So before we do that, before we know how to manage stress, let us first look at what causes workplace stress. So when you're at work, why are you stressed? So let's be specific about it, okay? So I have here a test, an activity for you where you can actually know the cause of your stress, okay? So if you're in this webinar and you don't have a notebook yet, so I suggest that you get one so that you can participate with this test. Okay, so okay, there you go. I hope that you got your handy dandy notebooks already or a piece of paper to take the test with me. Okay, so kindly number your papers from 1 to 24. So that is how long the test is. So probably you're thinking, why? Why another test? Okay. So this is a good test because this is simply a simple Likert scale test. So there are no wrong answers. You just answer based on, the truth about, how you feel about or how often you feel this way, based on the criteria. Okay, you don't need to copy the criteria. You can just pause and then answer. So you have 5, which signifies always or very frequent, and 1 means never or almost never. So 4, 3, 2 is something in between. No? So let's look at the different criteria. Okay, number 1, I feel upset because I feel unsupported by my boss or colleagues. Do you feel that this way? Okay. So if you always feel that way, 5. If, frequently you felt that way, 4. If sometimes, 3. And if it's, seldom, 2, and then 1, never. Okay, number 2, my boss or colleagues does not accept my ideas or suggestions. Okay. Number 3, my boss or colleagues reprimands me in front of others. Ooh, does your boss do that? Does your colleague do that? Reprimand you in front of other people. So actually in psych, that's a no-no. Also in parenting. So if you undergone parenting seminars, they will say that never reprimand your child in front of their friends, okay? Because that poses some sort of trauma. So, you know, and then 4, I feel that my work situation is unfair. 5, I try not to give opinion because people do not consider them anyway. Oh, okay. So next, number 6, I have very high standards for myself and others. 7, I feel like I can lose my job in an instant. Okay. Number 8, I feel like I am always the one doing all the giving or helping. Okay. Number 9, it feels that I am no longer going home. I am on call 24/7. Ooh, are do you feel that way? Maybe if you're working from home, feels like you're on call 24/7. Number 10, I feel embarrassed when someone corrects my behavior, even in private. Okay. So this talks about some deeper wounds, but, we'll get to that maybe on another webinar. Okay. Number 11, I feel exhausted with my work. Can relate. Number 12, I can make or already have a list of all the injustice I experienced at work. Do you have that? Do you have the list? Number 13, if someone puts me down, I want to take revenge at them. Ooh, this is getting sinister. Okay. So number 14, I feel like my needs are not being met by my work. 15, I feel that my boss or colleagues often let me down. Okay. So all you need to do is to write 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the different, numbers as I tell you the criteria. Number 16, if I am let go, I cannot get a better job than what I have now. Considering the situation, okay? Next, number 17, I feel that I am unable to perform well at my job due to physical or psychological problems. Do you feel that way? Next, number 18, I cannot sit still when I know that there is injustice around me. So you have this, innate sense of fairness and justice. Next, number 19, I feel angry or depressed when my ideas are not heard or accepted. Who wouldn't be, right? Next, number 20, other people are aiming for my current job or position. Someone's out to, get my spot. Okay. Next, number 21, I get passed over for promotions or projects in favor of others. Is there favoritism at work? Okay. Next, number 22, my boss or colleagues ignore me and my accomplishments. Why? Why do you ignore? Next, I get angry or frustrated when people are incompetent. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into detail with that, but it's a 5 for me. Okay. Next, number 34, I often feel invisible at work. Do you feel this way? Okay. So after you've answered all these questions, okay, what you will do is we will go to the legend for us to be able to interpret which of the causes of stress causes your stress. Okay. Okay, let's get to it. So there are eight causes of stress, although there could be more, but these are like 8 of the common causes. Okay. So first is lack of support. Second is rejection. Third is being humiliated. Fourth is burnout. So these are the causes of work stress. 5 are disappointments, 6 injustices, 7 underappreciation, and 8 is job insecurity. Okay, so how will you know if which of these are your or it's the cause of your work stress? Okay, so we will look at your top 3. Okay, so what you will do is, this is your, okay, you might want a screenshot of this because this will, probably need more time because you need to compute. Okay, so so this is how you will score yourself. So remember, I asked you to write down the points. So for question number 1, okay, whatever the points that you've written there. For example, you've written 5. Okay, so you add that to number 8, the score for number 8, and then the score for number 14. Okay, you add that and you get your total. So the maximum is 15, okay, per category. And then after you have tallied that, okay, so you will get the top 3. Okay, the top 3, and those are the causes of your workplace stress as of the moment. Okay, so let's now, okay, so I'm gonna give you some time to do that, or maybe you can pause this video, this webinar, and then just do the tally. Okay, and then okay, let's talk about the results. Okay, so here we go. So how do I manage? So this is managing the causes of your workplace stress, which is cause specific. Okay, so let's go and do that. So by the way, for those of you who need a certificate, okay, for, let's say for your resume, or like something like for your school, to as a proof that you're undergoing some webinars. So I'm giving out certificates for this. So our everyday learner, in cooperation with ABC, Above and Beyond Classrooms, are giving out certificates. Now, for this webinar, this is a 2-part webinar. So for the first part, we're giving out password number 1. And if you go to the part 2 of the webinar, we'll give you their password number 2. And on the description box, you will actually see a link there where it's kind of an evaluation form where you'll be asked to provide the 2 passwords. Okay, so if you were able to do that, so a certificate will be sent through the email that you've provided. So it is a must that you make sure that you have written the right full name for you, that you want to appear on the certificate, and also the correct email address, because if you do not provide the correct email address, the certificate will not be delivered to you. Okay, so don't worry, we are not collecting your email address for a third party or anything. It's just, for certification purposes. Okay, so let's now talk about the different causes of workplace stress and how can you handle those stresses. Okay, so first up is lack of support. Now, for lack of support, most people feel this way when there are circumstances at work that, it seems that your boss or your supervisors are not really supportive of your ideas, or maybe the people around you, like in your home or in your family life, they don't, you don't feel supported, or you feel like you're alone in this work. Okay, so here are some ways to address this stress. Okay, so the first one is analyze the reason why you felt unsupported. Now, it could be that it is simply your own perception, so I'm not, belittling your feelings or anything, but it could be, it's a possibility that maybe people are supporting you in their own way, but they also are experiencing some form of stress as of the moment, and that's the reason why they cannot, extend or like verbalize their support of you. So you have to, somehow look at their situation as well, if it's, if the lack of support is just your perception, or if it's in reality. So if it's in reality, then maybe the second one will help you. So sometimes we feel that we lack support because our support system is actually very small. Maybe it's time for you to expand your support system. Like, for example, you're only confiding in one coworker, and this coworker is a little bit busy as of the moment with regards to, like, problems with of her own or his own. So that's why they don't have like time for you. So you need to expand your support system to, like, maybe find other people who could, do the encouraging, if that's something that you do, or listening when with regards to work. So maybe you need to, expand your support system, maybe open up yourself to other people. Okay, so that can lessen your perception of lack of support. And thirdly is, maybe you need to challenge your limits. Maybe this is a way for you that at the moment you feel that people do not support your ideas. Maybe it's time for you to be able to stand on your own, be more independent, because sometimes life and circumstances lead us to situations where we can challenge the limits that we have. For example, um, we thought that we cannot do it on our own, but, or this is just your capacity. You have already set in your mind that these are the things that I can do, and these are the things that I cannot do. However, uh, there is wisdom in knowing your limits, and at the same time there is also wisdom in challenging them, because well, limits are there for you to be able to know where you stand at the moment. But my personality, I am choleric. So if you want to know your temperament, it can actually help you in this. So I'm a choleric, and I tend to challenge limits. I want to extend them. That's actually the reason why I have created this channel, Everyday Learner, because I really see myself as, as somebody who wants to expand their knowledge base. That I want growth. Growth is one of my personal values. So yeah. So maybe the lack of support that you feel right now can urge you, because not everyone is comfortable, with challenging their own limits. Sometimes, we love, just flowing, just chilling, and going inside those limits. However, when you are placed in that situation, when there is this lack of support, you get to challenge that. You get to see how tough you are. You get to see how far you can still go without, or with this feeling of, people not really being there for you. Okay, so that's one way of looking at that, looking at the lack of support as a challenge rather than a stressor. Okay. Next is rejection. So another reason for work stress is rejection. Nobody wants to be rejected, right? Some people have phobias of rejections, um, especially if this is like, something that you have experienced since childhood, being rejected or being left, abandoned by people who are supposed to be there for you. So the first thing that you can do is to process these feelings, which means that it is okay to be hurt. Because rejections, they hurt a lot. Let me give you an example. When I was doing my master's thesis, I got rejected 10 times. Uh, four rejections from my panel, and 6 rejections from my ethics board. So yeah, those are a lot of rejections. The first rejection, really hits hard, you know. However, after processing, you just give yourself time to grieve or to process those feelings of rejection, those hurt, the sadness that comes with it. Maybe eat a pint of ice cream or a couple of slices of cakes, and then after processing those feelings, yeah, maybe you can get past it. And I didn't know how I was able to accept all those rejections, but yeah, I actually believe that maybe it's the personality thing or it's the upbringing. But when I was rejected for the first time, it really hurt, and it took me a while before I got the courage to submit again and get rejected again. But the second rejection was not as painful as the first one. Yeah, because I guess, because it's like you're saying that, well, let's try again. Then I did. So for a couple of times. And then afterwards, I fell in love with research. Um, Before the pandemic, I've been to some countries to present the research work that I did and some papers that I did afterwards. And yeah, it felt good. I received Young Investigators Award. I received Young Researcher Award. I also received a Contribution Award from different conferences. Many of these are in Korea. So I've been to Korea a couple of times. And yeah, it's amazing because the rejections that I felt in the past, although they hurt, but they pushed me to, like, really look into this research thing. And then, it made me love it all the more. Okay, so that's rejection. Second thing to do is to accept yourself. Well, I guess I was able to accept myself not as a failure. You're not accepting yourself as a failure. You're accepting that there are things that you don't know yet, but you're also accepting the fact that those things that you don't know yet are things that you can know later. Right? So you have to accept that there are mistakes maybe that you made, and you know you can get past it by just loving yourself, accepting yourself. You made a mistake, but you're not a failure. Okay, so that there is the reason why we're so afraid of rejection is because we think that if we get rejected, that it's personal, that they don't like us, they don't love us. So you need to separate that. So sometimes the rejection does not come from the rejection of who you are. Maybe it's just a rejection of the idea that you have presented or the opinion that you gave to your boss. Maybe they don't think that it's feasible as of the moment, but who knows? Maybe that idea will send you to Korea next year. Who knows? Nobody knows. So that's why you need to, accept the process and just move forward. Okay, so third one, identify what you have learned. And that is something that I've learned. I've learned from the mistakes that I had before, and now because I have this knowledge, which I learned in a painful way because of the rejections, I I still feel that because I've learned a lot, because I have processed the feelings, I've processed the knowledge, I was able to get a couple of pointers from there. And now maybe if I get rejected again, so for example, I have this like proposal, especially in research, you get rejected a lot. So let's say, they don't accept your paper or your abstract, or maybe they don't give you funding. Okay, so that's okay. Okay, so maybe you propose another one, and look at or you can ask them for constructive criticism. So one thing that I've seen is that sometimes when people reject your idea, um our tendency is to like get inside our shells, so you hide yourself because you feel like a failure. But one of the things that you can do, and this is something that I've learned, that if people, let's say, gave you bad marks on your paper, or rejected your proposal or rejected your idea, for example in school. You're suggesting something to the principal, and then they did not give you the time of the day or something. Maybe you can write them a letter, or you can ask them in a very polite and respectful way that you want to learn from the process, and that maybe uh, you feel that you got rejected, so you want to know how you can improve on this, for example assignment, or on the idea, so that it can be accepted in the future. And sometimes they will say that, okay, so maybe you can think of a project that is not too idealistic. So people loves a learner. So maybe if you would tell them, express to them that you want to learn from your mistakes, why your ideas were not accepted, or your proposal was not accepted, and how you can improve in that. And I think they are able to, or they will be willing to give you the feedback. So but if they are, let's say, too busy to give you the time of day, then maybe you need another superior's opinion, or something like that. So this is how you identify what you've learned from the situation. And number 4, of course, when we get rejected, part of that is we feel low. Our self-esteem goes down a couple of notches. So the thing that I did is to surround myself with people who made me feel accepted, made me feel wanted, to just counterbalance the feelings of emptiness that came from the rejection. So I have my husband with me, who, always encourages me and tells me that it's okay, that there are you can propose again. So all those things. So yeah, that is why it is actually amazing to have that support system. If you have friends, you can go to your friends and tell them about what happened, and maybe ask them about some positive criticism that you can where you can actually learn from the experience. Okay, so that is rejection. Okay, so I hope that you're learning from this webinar. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so the third one that we will be talking about is humiliation. So humiliation is a cause of stress, not just in the workplace, but also in schools. So for example, some students, even in online classes, when they feel or felt that they were called out by their instructor in front of other students, they may have this lingering feelings of humiliation, and they feel ashamed, or maybe they don't want to go to class anymore because their professor is being mean to them, or they have these feelings of shame in them. So that's the reason why it's one of the reasons why they feel so stressed every time they have online classes. Now, for feelings of humiliation, how do we address this stress? The first one is to consider the possibility that it may not be personal. So because the feelings of humiliation, it can sometimes be subjective. So once again, I'm not belittling the feelings or the circumstances that you're in. However, you have to consider also is that, is your, let's say, instructor really targeting you personally, or is your superior actually humiliating you, or is it just about the idea that you know um, they are not accepting your ideas? Or it could be that maybe they are not, or they are angry or overworked or stressed at the moment, that's why they scolded on you, or unloaded on you. Sometimes that happens. So you have to consider the possibility that this attack, if it's an attack, may not be personal. Maybe they were not able, or these people were not your superiors, or whoever made you feel ashamed, um, may not be really on feeling well as well. So you have to consider that as well. Is it really personal, or is it more of it's not you, it's them? Okay, so maybe they have the problem. Okay, next is to analyze the situation and learn from your mistakes. So sometimes the feelings of humiliation stems from, let's say, for example, you have committed the mistake and the people called you out on it, your superiors called you out. Let's say, for example, I'm being late, or for example, you did not pass the requirements and they like posted your name, or they, you know, they called you out, like, for example, Ma'am Che, you were not able to pass your grades on time. So something like that. So you have to analyze the situation, like, yeah, it's your bad because, the deadline has passed and you have not, given the requirements. So you can learn from that mistake. So the next time that there is like, a deadline, you have to give that project on time, or those paper requirements on time, because you had the mistake. So maybe they could have handled the the situation more appropriately, like, correcting you in private rather than in front of other professors, or correcting you in front of your colleagues. However, for, you could, it's their growth patterns. We don't know where they are in their level of professionalism. But for you, because you also had a part on that, so you have to own your mistakes, and try your best to correct those mistakes if they are actually correctable. So if we can, undo it, why not, right? So keep in mind that other people easily forget. So another thing about something that something humiliating, you can learn from those people who go viral for doing something stupid. Okay, sorry for the word. Okay, but people love that, right? Like, for example, some people like did something so humiliating, and like they go viral. Give it a couple of days, not even weeks, like days. Like, people forget them. Like, people forget that humiliating thing that you did, a couple of days ago. So sometimes it's just in your mind that you cannot go to work anymore because, people will be talking about you. But in reality, maybe they've already forgotten that. So it just sticks on us. It's stuck on our memory because we are the ones who felt amiss on that situation. We felt humiliated. So nagmark sa atin, no? So that experience actually, marked on us. But for some people, like for your colleagues who were there when you were scolded by your principal, maybe they already forgot it. So yeah, you can go to work already. Okay, and number 4, beware of vengeful thoughts. One of the things that happen, this leads to, if you watch documentaries of like work or school shootings, uh, sometimes, they get, there is this, yeah, you have to beware of thinking negatively too much, and thinking of like vengeful scenarios, because whatever you feed your mind, that is what you exude, in other people. So you have to beware of those thoughts, stop it, nip it in the bud, so that you just um, accept that you had a part on that event, if there is a humiliating event, and do better. And after doing that, forgive these people. So I know it's not easy to forgive, but you have to consider also the consequences of your vengeful thoughts and maybe vengeful actions. So okay, so you don't want, you know to be imprisoned for those vengeful thoughts. Okay, so that is that. So the next one is injustices. Okay, so if you don't like something, change it. If you can change it, change the way you think about it. Now, how do we make sense of this? How do we cope with injustices around us? The first one is to make peace of the fact that you are living in an unfair world. So this is actually the reality, right? So although we want, we want our hearts and our minds are screaming for justice, despite of that fact, we see time and time again the inequalities that is very visible, especially here in the Philippines. We tend to say that the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer. So there are health inequities, health inequalities, and you can see the lives of people, the really wealthy ones. They have a lot of excess, and yet there are some people, who have very less, and they're still being taken advantage of. So sometimes those things, especially in the workplace, if there are injustices, like, you get passed um, over uh, for a promotion that you deserve or you think you deserve. So one of the things that you can, so that you can sleep at night and you can, go back to work the next day, is to make peace that sometimes there will be injustices dealt upon you, unfairness in that, that in your workplace, that you cannot do anything about as of the moment. However, if you can do something about it, maybe you should. Okay. So the second thing is speak up. So maybe there are injustices, and maybe the people who are committing these injustices do not know that they are, committing them, or maybe they know, but they don't know that people know. So maybe you need to speak up. Like, for example, ma'am, um, uh, during the ranking last year, for example, no, if you're in a ranking system, uh, I there was a vacant position, and like three of us applied for it. And in terms of academics, I have a higher score. So can you please tell me what happened? Why was I passed over? So this is for my own self-improvement, my professional advancement in the future, something like that. So you need to speak up, because maybe they think that they can, do the injustice and you will just take it. So maybe you need to say something. Okay. So um, when I was a new teacher, this, I learned this the hard way, because I don't know, maybe I hope that there's not, but in the first school where I taught, I have an experience where the senior instructors, the senior teachers there, uh, bullied me. I don't know if it's like bullying or something, but it felt that way to me, some of them, like, will instruct me to do something that is like beyond my job description as a teacher. Because, for example, we are all instructors there, but I'm a newbie, I'm a new grad. So after graduating nursing, I entered the academe, and I got bullied by, they are asking me to do like errands for them. So at first it was okay, like buy me some food in the, canteen, which we don't have in the school, so you have to, like, cross the streets or something. And then, yeah, that's okay, because I'm gonna buy myself some food as well. But sometimes it's like, can you get the eraser from the faculty room, or can you get my scotch tape, or can I borrow your, so those are the things that happen. And like, they are interrupting my class to make me run errands for them. And I'm like, I'm discussing something, but they will like say, Mom Che, can you get my cell phone? I forgot it. It was charging in the faculty room. And I was like, um, I'm teaching, but yeah, so, okay, ma'am. So I need to go and get their their phones. Feedback. So I needed to speak up during that time, and you learn. You will learn, and yeah. So okay. The third one is to perform small acts of kindness because of the injustices that are sometimes that we can see in the world. Um, the best thing in our workplace, even the best thing for us to do is not to be the source of that injustice. Let's say, for example, like uh, especially in this time of pandemic, for example, you were given like money, right, for food, like your um, a stipend from the government, for example. So if you're being given that and yet you actually do not need it as much as others, so maybe you can donate that in the community pantry or something like that. So perform small acts of kindness. So, or let's say, for example, you have, like, in the workplace, people are talking negatively about you, gossiping about you, maybe instead of retaliating against them, maybe you can perform some small acts of kindness, like you know leaving as a post-it of encouraging words to some of your coworkers. So maybe that's something. It may not correct their thoughts of you or the injustices that has happened, but maybe you personally will feel better, because that doing something kind for someone who cannot repay you for that kindness is really something unimaginable. The feelings of warmth that you will feel afterwards, and um, yeah. So that is something that you can do. Perform small acts of kindness. So if you're in this webinar right now, think of something that you can do in your workplace or school, or maybe in your family, that you can, appreciate someone, encourage someone, um, send somebody food through the delivery systems, something like that. So yeah, perform small acts of kindness. Okay, so the next one that is the cause of stress are disappointments. So for disappointments, how do we deal with disappointments? Okay, so I know for many of you, okay, you are very, you have very high standards for yourself and for others. So the first thing that you do when you get disappointed is to face your emotions. Of course, there are feelings of disillusionment. There are feelings of, it's like you have to face the emotion. You have to accept that emotion, that it's sad to be disappointed. Like, you don't want to get disappointed, but you have to face those emotions, the reality that when a person that you look up to disappoints you, for example, you a coworker, or your boss, you saw your boss, like, mishandling something that is crucial for the school or something like that. So you get disappointed, so you have to face your emotions, like, yeah, so this is the reality right now. And then you have to fight that negative self-talk. Because sometimes when we get disappointed about the outcome of something that we did, so we have this negative self-talk. Just recently, a couple of weeks ago, as I've told you, I have, I'm studying my doctorate, and in one of my subjects, I got a low grade. Okay, so I was telling myself before I entered the doctorate that, this is doctorate degree. So, I'm not going to be grade conscious anymore. However, I guess that's already built in. I cannot do away with that. Why? Why am I grade conscious? Okay. Anyway, so uh, I had to, when I received my marks, I automatically thought, oh no, I'm so stupid. Why did I get those marks for those assignments, which I really worked hard for. But I guess yeah, so you have to fight that. So there were like maybe 2 days. I'm not sure. I need to ask my husband for the real number of days that I spent wallowing on those scores. Maybe 3 days. I don't know. So I was really, really sad. I had all this negative self-talk, like I want to drop out of the degree. Maybe maybe I'm not as intelligent as I think I am. So all those things, like, what, why? So I had all those negative things that are going inside my mind, and you need to fight those negative thoughts. And after, I gave myself a couple of days to wallow. Okay, then after that, I took action. So I told my siblings, oh, these are the grades that I had. And they told me, maybe you need to ask your professor how you can improve on those grades. And I did that. And I'm so blessed to have a very kind professor. He told me that those grades that I received are actually very small portions of the actual grades. So, I can still, I can still get better grades for the papers, the projects that will be given. So, yeah, so that's it. So I was able to recover from the disappointment. So I was really disappointed with myself, not with the grade that my professor gave me, but with myself mostly. Okay, so next is evaluate your expectations. So I actually looked at that experience and evaluated what was I actually expecting to get, like all perfect grades. Like, yeah, so I needed to reevaluate the very high standards that I have set upon myself and maybe upon other people. So maybe you should do that. So if you tend to get disappointed a lot, there will be frustrations inside of you. Like, for example, if I were the principal, these are the things that I would have done. And then, you get to be bitter. So you don't want to be a bitter person, especially during this time, because it will eat you from the inside out. So you just reevaluate your expectations and maybe do something to change, if you could change those things. Try a different tactic. So that's what I did. I didn't know I was applying this for myself. So I changed my tactic. So I tried to reach out and maybe ask for um, some help with regards to those, let's say, for example, the projects or requirements. So I'm now more vocal of the things that I cannot understand. So if there are like concepts that I do not understand, I really ask my professor, because it's distance education. So this is something that maybe the online learners do not know. If you're a student and for example, there are topics that you did not understand, you can reach out to your professor and ask them, ma'am or sir, can you clarify this concept? Because I was lost during the lecture, or when I was reading the book, I was confused. So can you please explain it to me better? And most of the time your instructors will be very open to answering your queries, because for me, I'm already in the doctorate, and my professor was very, very accommodating. They actually gave me the responses that I needed to be able to answer the next assignments. Okay, so if you're confused, maybe you can reach out to your professors and also ask them how or what can I read, or maybe ask for books or references that you can have, so that you can answer the next, if it's like, if it's a presentation that you flunked, maybe you can ask, mom, what can I do better next time? Or can I have some resources, some books, some references that I can read or I can base my answers upon. Okay, so something like that. Okay, so that is for disappointments. So in the workplace, if you had like some disappointments there as well, you need to give yourself some time to wallow on that, and maybe and fight those negative self-talk mm, you have to fight it. Okay, because they will be there at the back of your mind. Just no, no, you're not stupid. You tell yourself in the mirror, you're not stupid. You're beautiful. You're accepted. Okay, so yeah, so that's how you fight disappointments. Next is burnout. Okay, sometimes the most productive thing you can do is relax. Okay, so I love that. Oh, so this is one of the things that I had a problem with. So yeah, so a week ago I had this, fever and chills. So I was like, have muscle pains all over. So I was thinking, is this COVID? But I didn't have cough or, um, yeah, so there was no respiratory involvement. However, like I feel so tired, exhausted, burned out. So that's the reason. I was not able to take a rest. So this is one of the things that is, I guess, very prominent nowadays, especially with this work from home scheme. One of the things that we yeah we did not anticipate maybe is that people who are working from home tends to see the home as a workplace rather than a place of rest. So if you're like looking at your home and then you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna like use my bedroom especially as my office or my workplace. Now, there is no separation. The function of the bedroom as a place of rest is now removed because it becomes a place of work. That's why there is this perception that you're always on call. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so for you to prevent burnout, so first thing is know your limits. Okay, know your limits. So I told you earlier, once you know your limits, you can challenge your limits. But when we're talking about if this is something that you've experienced during this pandemic, the burnout feeling, you have to know your limits and learn to say no to people. Okay, so you have to set boundaries because sometimes the reason why we get burned out is because we are actually on call 24/7. But the reality is you are only paid from 8 to 5, for example. Okay, so if it's not your time of classes, you can just you can also set like boundaries for your students if there are teachers here. Let's say, for example, like parents are calling you in the wee hours of the night, so you can tell them like, um I would gladly accept your queries. I would accept your letters, but I will only let's say I will only accept calls from 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m. So that's the boundary. And from 10 p.m. up to let's say 5 a.m. I am offline. Okay, so please do not contact me. Maybe you can set your phones on airplane mode. I don't know. During those times, or yeah, so just turn off your accounts so that you can get some rest. Okay, so know your limits and set your boundaries, because if you don't take that relaxation or that rest that you badly need, you will have problems because you have to prioritize the essentials. The reason why we are burnt out is we don't prioritize the essentials. I remember from the news, right? Do you recall? Lugaw is essential. So prioritize your essentials. Rest is essential. Okay, so not just lugaw. Rest is essential. So which means you have to prioritize rest. So for this part of the webinar, the first password is already on your screens. Rest is essential. So no spaces. So that is password number one for those of you who would want to get that certificate. So yeah, take it down. Rest is essential. Please do not put it in the comment section so that others would have to go through the webinar so that they also learn. Okay, not just get the certificate. Okay, so yeah, so you have to prioritize rest because if you don't, you will not do it. Let me tell you that. I'm telling you from my own experience. If I don't put in my schedule a rest day, I will not have a rest day, because I'm that kind of person that I thrive in having a heavy workload. I can attribute it to my mom and my father, who are both workaholics. Okay, so because I lived in that culture that, people are like always on the go doing something, doing multiple tasks. So yeah, I get to be like that as well. So, however, that's the reason why I was burnt out. So what you can do is you have to have your calendars every week. Like, there is this day where you will not do anything but rest. Okay? Because you need that. Okay, you need that. Even cell phones need to recharge, guys. Come on. Okay, so even gadgets need their rest. You are not a robot. Even robots need their rest. Okay, so I see this in Korea, in their airport in Incheon, there are these robots who assist you if you have like some queries, like what bus number will take me to, let's say, Dongdaemun, for example. So, they can answer those questions, but at night you will see them plugged in the sockets and are charging. Okay, so if these robots are charging, you also need to recharge. Okay, so yeah, so that's burnout. Next is under appreciation or unappreciated. If you feel unappreciated or appreciated in your work, you have to recognize that not everyone will accept you. Okay, so it's an irrational belief that if you perform the best that you can, or if you are like all out, that everyone will accept you. No, that's not the reality. Even if you're like very good in your craft, not everyone will accept you. Okay, so for example, you're very studious, or you're very, what do you call this, um, yeah, so something like that. You're very good in articulation, doesn't mean that people will always, say good things about you, accept you for who you are. That's an irrational belief, to say that everyone will accept me because I'm like good. So you have to recognize that, yeah, not everyone will accept me. Okay, next is you have to appreciate others. One of the things that you will find, especially in psychology, this is always, said that if people do not appreciate you, one of the things they can do is appreciate them, and you will see them maybe appreciating you as well. Okay, so for example, you say, "Oh wow, that's a very, your presentation is very good," for example. Then, maybe they will also say, "Oh, your presentation is very good as well." Something like that. So appreciate others. Okay, next is reward yourself. So what if they don't appreciate you? Okay, so there are people who will see your potential, who will see your contribution to the company or to the institution. But there are some people who will feel threatened by you, maybe, will feel intimidated, or maybe they feel that you're aiming for their position. That's why they don't like you. So what if they feel that way? So if they feel that way and they don't appreciate you, you appreciate yourself. Yeah, one of the things that I learned uh, when I was in high school, because I was bullied in high school. You know that already about me. So people did not appreciate me, some people did not see my potential. So I've learned from that experience that, okay, if you don't appreciate me, if you don't see my potential, it's okay. Because I know that there are those people who see my potential. And if nobody sees my potential, nobody, then I see my potential. So I have to reward myself for that. So maybe, you buy yourself something, or You praise yourself, job well done. Tap yourself on the back and the shoulders. Very good, Cherry. Because if that is something that you need and no one gives it to you, so you can do that to yourself. You can reward yourself. Okay, so unappreciated. So that's how you manage that. Next is job insecurity. Now, this is more profoundly felt now that there is this pandemic. Many people are, job insecure because at any moment their companies can go bankrupt or can, because of the pandemic. So many jobs are being affected. So when you have this stress, when you think that maybe next week they will no longer hire me or I will lose my job. So what are the things that you can do for you to be able to counteract this stress? Because maybe this is playing on your mind. So that is why you are very stressed in your workplace. So the first thing that you will do is demonstrate your value. You need to demonstrate your value to the institution or company that you are working for, and show them what you can contribute to their advancement. Because if you're valuable to the team, maybe you will be the last person that they will get rid of, because you bring something that others do not bring in the company. So you have to demonstrate to them what you can do, why you're an asset. Okay. Next is walk the extra mile. What I mean by this is always over deliver. So let's say, for example, you're in a in your job, and your boss asks you to do something, like do this, and maybe you can not just do that, and maybe do what they ask you to do very well, and then go beyond that, go the extra mile. And maybe they can see, like, this person is very willing to give us the best and beyond that. Okay, so walk the extra mile, over deliver. So I always tell that to my students as well, that if your professor asks, let's say, for example, you're doing a reporting, maybe you can memorize your report instead of like looking at the books or looking at your notes, because you just know it. So you have to go the extra mile, although they did not tell you to memorize, but you're showing that, yeah, I've already memorized it. Next is be open to opportunities. I've learned this from, yeah, I guess a colleague of mine. I don't know who, but yeah, a colleague of mine once told me that the best time to look for a job is when you still got one, because you're not that desperate. That is what she told me. Okay, so like when you're, we be open to opportunities for enhancement. So I'm not saying that be disloyal. So all I'm saying is that maybe you can grow better in another company, or you just don't close your doors for other opportunities, or don't put all your eggs in one basket, something like that. So you can still look for jobs, be open to that. It's easy now to apply to jobs, like you can send in your resume online, and then maybe you need to reevaluate your career plan. So for example, you're like in one industry that is closed right now. So maybe you can look for, maybe think of other ways to earn, okay, or have a job. I have seen in the news before that there are these online sellers who were now millionaires because of the change in the career path that they took when the pandemic struck. So yeah, so that's a very good example of how you can reevaluate. Maybe the pandemic has opened some jobs that are before not accessible. So maybe now it is accessible to you, and it could be part of your career path in the future. So you have to, consider that as well. Okay, so yeah. So those are the different causes of stress, workplace stress, and that's how you address them. So this is my channel, Everyday Learner with Mom Cherry. If you haven't yet, please, you could, click the subscribe button, subscribe to this YouTube channel for other webinars with certificates, and we'll try our best to upload more webinars like this one, or maybe you can, if you want me to do a webinar on a specific topic, maybe you can put it on the comment section below. So that is the end of the first part of this webinar, Managing Stress in the Workplace. Thank you so much for tuning in, and just click the next video for the second part of this webinar. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.